part 2 of our epic Tassie road trip. After an unforgettable time in Cradle Mountain, hiking the trails and spotting the wombats, we were back on the road and ready for our next part of our adventure. Before we left the area, we decided to check out Leven Canyon, which is just south of Devonport. There are 2 short trails here to 2 different lookouts linked by an almighty staircase. After a short walk, we made it to the Crookshanks Lookout, which is an amazing view on the cliff edge. We could see down the 275 metres to the Leven River at the bottom of the canyon. These views were super impressive. Now we took the right route for a good reason, to head down the 697 steps to the next lookout rather than all the way up them. Guess it depends on how big of a workout you want. The area is filled with ferns and is heavily forested. After the short trek, we arrived at the Leven Canyon Lookout to give us a different perspective of the canyon from a lower level. There are further walking trails in the area, including one down to the canyon floor and also one up a 1,300 metre snow-capped mountain. Unfortunately for me, this is also the place where I dropped my camera lens. The lookout is also on a cliff, so I couldn't just hop over the railing and get it. The next day we fueled up for another big day ahead. I was on breakfast duty today. Simple but yummy. Our first stop was to a cute little berry farm just off the highway at Turner's Beach. We stopped here and tried their delicious strawberries and their famous berry ice cream. From there, a short drive down the coast was the town of Penguin. Penguin, you say? Yep, you heard right. This friendly town is a beautiful north coast town named after the fairy penguins in this area. They had really embraced the penguin theme here with penguin bins, signs and even bollards. The centerpiece is a 10-foot penguin statue in the heart of the town, and he is always dressed for the occasion, whether it be the local footy team colours, Santa, or even El Natural, the naked penguin. We continued along the coast to the very northwesterly town of Stanley. The town is made for a postcard with the Nut, a huge volcanic plug which rises 150 metres out of the water. The town is flanked by 2 stunning beaches, and perched on the hill to the west is the Highfield Historic Site, home to an old European homestead, which has amazing views of the north coastline. Back to the famous Nut. There's a chairlift here that operates from the first Thursday in September through to the end of May. The cost is $14 one way or $21 for a return. During the day it can be closed if there are high winds, so keep a lookout on the weather. The lift goes up 95 metres, and trust me, the walk up is super steep, so take the easy route up at least. You also get great views too. The Nut was actually formed by volcanic magma hardening inside the volcano. It's now extinct though. This one has a nice flat top though, so once you get to the top, you can take a circuit trail which goes around the plateau. It's about a 4.5 kilometre walk and it's mostly flat through open heath and patches of woodland. Believe it or not, the early settlers here actually farmed on top of the Nut, growing different types of grains and even had sheep up here at one stage. Now with 360-degree views of the areas, it's a must-do in the northwest. Also, don't forget to head to the beach to watch the penguins come in each night in the evening. The next day we made our way down to start our journey along the wild west coast. This is a World Heritage area which is literally on the edge of the world. Our first stop was the town of Waratah, a quiet little town built to support a tin mine. The town has platypus inhabited lakes and said to be haunted historic buildings. It's also cutely decorated with the mystical Tasmanian tiger, which may still roam the Wild West areas. The beautiful Waratah Falls can be viewed from the middle of the town too. Through the windy forested roads, we arrived in the town of Queenstown to stop by the railway station to see the impressive West Coast Wilderness Railway. The Wilderness Railway is home to some steam locomotives which are over 125 years old. There are some different routes up through the rainforest, leaving from both Strahan and Queenstown. They're a little pricey and can be booked out in the early peak seasons. This train departs Queenstown to the gold town of Lynchford before travelling into the rainforest and arriving at Rinadina Station. This is the view of driving even in the summer on the west coast. From Queenstown we made the short drive to Nelson Falls. Here there is a short 1.4 kilometre walk through a mossy forest, typical of the southwest of Tasmania. The cascading falls are always flowing down the beautiful 30-metre rock face. From the falls we made our way to our accommodation in Taria. The accommodation was set on some farmland which backed onto a forest, where we decided to set off for an evening hike on the known Quoll Track. First though, we had to pass through the fields of wallabies who had emerged for the evening for their dinner. The forest was super dense, quiet and full of different little hidey holes. We were on the lookout for quolls, a nighttime marsupial hunter, and also the more famous Tasmanian devil. We did find some signs of these super shy and elusive guys, but didn't catch sight of any. After disturbing only a few pademelons and wallabies, we made our way back past the lakes and the highland cows to take a rest for the night. A 6 AM start was a very early rise for us. With the temperature hovering just above freezing, we checked out just as the pademelons were out for their morning breakfast, but they weren't the ones we were hoping to see. We were up to find the very unique Platypus. These guys are early risers and we found them in a stream just adjacent a small town school. We watched about 2 or 3 different platypus scratch their bums and hunt around for small crustaceans and fish. They, like the echidna, are egg-laying mammals. They're extremely fascinating creatures, and Tassie has some very accessible locations to see these guys up close in the wild. On our last day in Tassie, we were passing through a small town and were greeted by a local legend, Neil the Seal, who generally enjoys terrorising the neighbours, sleeping in the middle of the street to stop the cars, and also chilling by the beach. He does agree with one thing though. Subscribe to us to be reminded of our next video, and we'll see you again in the next one.